animated movies are usually more memorable when they add a bit of humor. But if you try too hard, it falls flat and comes off as cringy.
No! God, please, no!
Worse, when you put in just a little effort, the only thing you'll succeed in is wasting an hour and a half of everybody's time. So, what is the best way to make an audience laugh, and what isn't? If you want your audience to really laugh, you have to do 4 things correctly. The first is to apply the character strategy. Take Hercules, for example. Released in 1997, this was Disney's lighthearted spin on Greek mythology. Instead of the somber, bloody epics you might expect from the source material, the film went bold, with bright visuals, gospel-inspired music, and a cast of gods, mortals, and creatures with personalities as varied as their skin colors.
Here, keep those away from the baby.
With that many characters to juggle, humor was bound to play a big role. Some of it is obvious. Hermes, the messenger god, is all quick quips and one-liners.
Yeah, I had Orpheus do the arrangement.
But so were these weirdos.
Pain and panic. Reporting for duty.
These guys stumble over themselves, fumble through tasks, and give excuses at the worst possible times. Even Philoctetes, the satyr trainer voiced by Danny DeVito, is played for humor.
Holy Hera.
And to be fair, all these aforementioned guys were truly funny. But as far as raw, witty humor went, no character did it better than Hades. And this is crazy because we've seen Hades portrayed in so many pieces of media, but he has never been a figure that writers look at and say, the audience can get a few laughs from him. Yet, for some reason, it works, and here's why. From his first scene, you know exactly what kind of presence he'll be. The gods are throwing a lavish party to celebrate baby Hercules. When Hades shows up, he's polite, maybe too polite, as he floats through the crowd with a smirk. But what really announced his presence was this.
I haven't been this choked up, so I got a hunk of moussaka caught in my throat.
Unfortunately, the room freezes. None of the gods laugh. Obviously because they don't like him. But the audience back home does. He's snide, sarcastic, and undermining their moment in a way that feels authentic to him. The humor here is a character expressing who he is. Throughout the film, that's what makes Hades' humor work. Dude was just being himself. He mocks incompetence, disguises threats in witty banter, and erupts in fiery outbursts when things go wrong.
The fates are here and you didn't tell me!
And whose outbursts are funny because they're so spontaneous? One moment, he's smooth talking. The next, he's shouting at pain and panic for screwing up again. But let's be honest here. It's not just about what Hades says. His animation also becomes part of the joke because it perfectly visualizes his mood and reactions. When he's calm, his head glows with a short blue flame. But this grows bigger and brighter when he is excited and orange-red when he's angry. Other features like his eyes and face also change with his mood. Nevertheless, all of this would have fallen flat if the delivery didn't match.
Excuse me?
James Woods' voice performance gave Hades a fast-talking, almost showman-like energy, turning what could have been a flat villain into one of Disney's most charismatic antagonists. Critics at the time even compared Woods' improvisational style to Robin Williams' Genie in Aladdin, praising how his humor elevated the film rather than distracting from it. What's crucial here is that none of this humor weakens Hades as a villain. His motives are deadly serious. He wants to overthrow Zeus and rule Olympus. There's nothing inherently funny about that. But the way he approaches it, the way his personality bleeds into every line, makes him engaging to watch. You're laughing with him even as you root against him. And that's the gold standard of a well-written comedic character. Without trying to be funny, their mannerisms, worldview, and very presence make them funny. Hades works because the writers built a strong foundation for him first. When you start writing the jokes before you flesh out your character, you end up with a disaster like this.
You tell anyone you saw this and I'll crack more than those knuckles.
Individuals who have no personality outside of providing comedic relief. When High Five was on screen, the audience automatically knew that they were in for either a high five joke or a punchline about him being a hand.
Ladies? Fist bump, he's a knucklehead. Literally. I can look like that.
Good humor is not supposed to be predictable, and even if that is the case, this is not the way to approach it. If your character has no real purpose outside of a few gags, that's not really much of a character.
Knuckle butt?
I can't feel my face.
High Five has no depth, no motive, and no contrast with the world around him. He exists purely to generate laughs, and because of that, he generates almost none. Critics tore the film apart for exactly this reason. Characters with no substance trying to carry humor they weren't built to support. The difference between Hades and High Five is that Hades is funny because he's a character first and humorous second. High Five, however, is funny because, well, he's a hand, and the writers couldn't think beyond that. So focus on making a great character first. That's like the first hack. Another trick is a little straightforward, yet many creators fail to use it. Nothing hurts your character's chance of being funny more than making them know that they are funny. Comedy stops working when the person delivering it treats themselves as the punchline, and that was exactly Olaf's problem in Frozen. Well, mainly the second movie. Olaf wasn't a disaster by any means. He's charming, and kids loved him. But so much of his humor falls flat because he telegraphs it. He often starts or ends his lines with laughter, as if he's in on the joke. That might seem harmless, but it changes how the audience experiences him.
You know, sleeping quietly on long journeys prevents insanity?
Yeah, that's not true.
Why exactly is an in-universe character doing the job of the audience? It's almost as if the writers knew that they needed to put cues for the audience to know that a joke has been made. The only thing this does is make the audience pause in confusion and wonder what exactly was funny about the scene they just watched.
Hi, I'm Olaf. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just find clothes restricting.
It's like we have just 4 main protagonists and a comedian to remind us that everything's not that serious, and we should smile a bit. Olaf isn't as bad as characters like High Five. At least he serves a purpose beyond comic relief, but the pattern is there. High Five's entire existence was to deliver hand jokes. The audience never forgot they were watching a joke machine because the character had nothing else to offer. Olaf avoids that fate by being tied to the themes of innocence and hope. Yet, even then, the film undercuts him by making him too aware of his own humor. The irony is that Olaf's funniest moments are the ones where he isn't trying to be funny at all.
Unicorn. Ice cream. Castle. Oaken.
The only thing the writers didn't make Olaf do is break the fourth wall, but you can tell when they brought him dangerously close to that line.
Do you ever worry about the notion that nothing is permanent?
Look, to be fair, there's really nothing wrong with having one character be the butt of jokes. However, most characters in this trope didn't even know that they were being funny. Comedy rooted in self-awareness can work in shows that are built around it, like Deadpool or Rick and Morty. But in a fairy tale world like Frozen, it breaks immersion. Therefore, if you really want to make a character to actually be funny, make sure they're not aware of it. Heck, give them a distraction that takes away their awareness of their humor. Get yourself a character like this guy.
Delicious.
This dude is genuinely clueless about the funny remarks he makes. He's fixated on getting all the magic in the world to the point where he casually admits horrifying things like,
Can't bake a pie without losing a dozen men.
Even though he laughs at his own jokes, they stick because he's supposed to be a delusional character. He's supposed to be the one who doesn't realize he's being funny because he's evil and proud. What makes it stronger is the presence of the cricket acting as his conscience. The cricket calls him out, scolds, and even begs him to be a better person. But instead of reflecting, Jack brushes it all off with smug sarcasm.
You're an irredeemable monster!
Oh, what took you so long, idiot?
This dynamic does two things. First, it highlights Jack's lack of self-awareness. He genuinely believes he's justified, and the cricket's moral outrage only makes his indifference more absurd. Second, it gives the audience a stand-in for their own reactions. The cricket says what we're thinking, which makes Jack's dismissive replies even funnier.
No, I never had much as a kid. Just loving parents, stability, and a mansion.
When an audience sees Jack Horner, they are laughing at how delusional he is, and how much he's engulfed in these delusions. Mix that with the visible frustration of sensible characters around him, and you have people laughing in a movie that's a metaphor about death and contentment. Contrast this with Olaf from Frozen. He's also self-aware, but it works against him. He's constantly nudging the audience, letting them know, hey, this is a joke. Jack's humor works because it's rooted in who he is. Therefore, if Olaf's humor had sprung solely from his naive worldview, without the self-congratulatory delivery, he would have landed stronger as a comedic force. But here's the thing, not letting the audience know they're supposed to laugh is only part of it. There's another key factor, and if you miss it, even a character meant to be funny will still fall flat. Whatever you do, never try to explain the joke. Do you know what explanations do to jokes? They undermine them and annoy the audience in the process. Simple as that. Who tells someone what the surprise is before trying to shock them? You would think this is a problem that's easy to work your way around. But it's not. Writers get so excited for viewers to laugh at the joke that sometimes they end up giving it away before it's even shown. This can even come off as a bit insulting, because telling your audience what exactly to find funny doesn't show trust. However, when you play goofy things off like the intention was not a laugh, that comes off as genuine and organic. Take Phineas and Ferb's Dr. Doofenshmirtz, for example. He wouldn't describe himself as a funny character, but he definitely does funny things. The writers made a fleshed-out personality whose main purpose isn't humor, and they don't give him the self-awareness that would ruin his humorous moments. As a matter of fact, he kind of lacks a lot of awareness for an evil scientist.
Sir, I'm not even sure if that's a dog.
Oh, don't try to weird.
But there's something else that makes him a fan favorite. The audience can tell when he is being funny. If he's not giving a sad backstory,
It all began on the day of my actual birth. Both of my parents failed to show up.
he's having his inventions blow up in his face.
Feet so no one could reach them.
And most iconic of all, not recognizing his arch nemesis.
A platypus plumber? Perry the platypus plumber?
His scenes make us go, there's no way he's being real. No one is telling the audience that particular scenes demand a laugh from them. They come out of the blue as a surprise. Genuineness matters in jokes, and this circles back to what was said earlier about characters being characters before humor is added. You can't look at a moment of Doofenshmirtz and say that this scene was just added to set up a joke. The funny moments come naturally, and even if the audience doesn't laugh the first time, a rewatch is bound to make them giggle. But for some reason, writers take so much pride in their jokes that they don't want the audience to miss them. And that's what happened when people watched Minions: Rise of Gru. We love the Minions, but we love them better as side characters. They are an integral part of Despicable Me, whereas main characters, they don't work the same way. They can't help but be silly at all times, and that's the problem. When we get a scene of them, we are absolutely guaranteed that they will try to make us laugh to the point of being overdone. So much time is spent on setting up the joke that you obviously know what's about to follow. For example, when the minions get denied entry into a plane, we understand they were going to sneak aboard by posing as pilots and crew members. We also know by now that anytime they do something of this nature, they are never subtle.
Hey, Sully.
This is funny at first, but when it happens half a dozen times and we can already predict another messy scene, it stops working. That might be fine for a room full of 7-year-olds, but the strength of most animated films is that they entertain both kids and adults. The Minions movie takes that choice away. It repeats the same joke over and over, telling the audience what to laugh at instead of letting them decide. How would you feel if your friends told you every surprise they were going to throw before they did? That's what this movie feels like. But as bad as this is, it still isn't the worst way you can try to make people laugh. That's what the Emoji Movie feels like, a collection of skits woven together. We understand that there's a protagonist with a problem, and a plot actually exists. But you can skip this movie every 5 minutes and know what the main story is about. There are too many jokes and scenes intended for humor instead of progressing the plot. But can you really blame the writers for trying to put in so many jokes? The whole lore of the movie is about emojis brought to life. The possibilities for jokes based on each emoji are literally endless.
And working in the cube is an emoji's whole purpose in life. Everybody my age is working on the phone except for me.
But the writers got too excited with this and literally went off with things. Before a character speaks, the audience has a rough idea about what might be said.
I believe in you!
Should we wash our hands?
Half an hour into the movie, it starts to look like a compilation of witty things emojis would say if they were self-aware.
And then there's me. High five, right there, doing my job.
Not only do these jokes rob the movie of a solid story, but they also leave little to no room for character growth and nuance. Emojis that suggest aggression aren't allowed to be softly spoken, and emojis about food are really nothing more than that. This is a movie where stereotypes are paired with phenotypes, but in the quest to get a viral, iconic joke, it ended up with none, wrecking the story in the process. Jokes are supposed to be part of the journey, and sometimes, when it's done right, it gives a level of depth to the story that isn't possible without the jokes. Therefore, to do it the right way, you have to watch the DreamWorks classic, Shrek. It's funny how the world in the Emoji Movie isn't far from Shrek's. The emojis aren't original, we'd been using them for years before the film. And Shrek is a mashup of classic fairy tales and folklore. So what did Shrek get right that the Emoji Movie missed? For one, it didn't put jokes ahead of the story. And when Shrek made a joke, it built the world and deepened the story.
It's hideous!
Oh, that's not very nice. It's just a donkey.
Shrek is an ugly ogre who's underestimated, which suits him as a protagonist with hidden potential. The characters follow clear stereotypes, but they're paired with others who challenge them while staying true to their traits. This makes the jokes land without breaking the story's flow. And when it comes to jokes enhancing a story and giving layers to a character, nobody embodies that more than this fellow.
I am Lord Farquaad.
He has insecurities and he tries to mask them by being mean to everyone. He is royalty after all. He shouldn't feel second to anyone else. So his cruelty is excused by his superiority complex. Anytime we learn the extent to which he's a pompous man-child, we learn it through a joke.
Thelonious, you were saying?
What I mean is, you're not a king yet.
Not only do the jokes actually make us laugh, but they also enrich the story. If you really want to write good and relevant jokes that actually work, you need to treat humor like a plot device instead of standalone moments. And that's how you make your jokes memorable and iconic. You make it an irreplaceable part of the story. Shrek came out more than a decade before the Emoji Movie, but we see more memes about Lord Farquaad than anything the Emoji Movie has produced. And that's how you know you've actually made an audience laugh. It's still as funny as the first time it was watched. But humor is only one part of what makes a story great. Sometimes you need to identify if a character should be the hero or a villain. This video here shows us how Disney failed to make that decision with King Magnifico and how DreamWorks nailed it perfectly with Jack Horner.